Hello, hello, and welcome to the All In podcast with Nate Peo. Of course, I am your host, Nate Peo. My guest today is Rachel Richards. She's only 27 years old. Former financial advisor Rachel Richards has made a name for herself in the personal finance realm. In 2019, she quit her job and retired with over $10,000 per month in passive income. She is the best-selling author of Money Honey and Passive Income Aggressive Retirement. She has been featured on the Penny Hoarder and New York Times and has been contracted to speak at colleges. Rachel is also a real estate investor with 35 rental units, and her valuable money lessons have helped provide thousands of millennials work through their way out of financial despair. She has successfully done what no one has done before, made the topic of money management fun, entertaining, and simple. Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Hey, Nate. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. So, 27, retired, tons of financial experience. Most people don't even think about it by the time they're 27. And you're already done and out of the woods and have your whole life in front of you to do as you please. What kind of drew you into this idea of financial independence at such a young age? Because I'm sure you didn't start it at 26. You probably, had some years leading up to that before you were able to do it.
Oh yeah, I've been a total finance nerd for decades now. Literally, I think my passion started in sixth grade when I found this book called The Motley Fool's Guide for Teens: How to Have More Money Than Your Parents Ever Dreamed of. I was like, that sounds cool. And there was one summer that I was at the summer camp and all my friends were playing on the water slides, and I was sitting at the edge of the pool reading this book. So it really started a fire in me to learn about retirement and how to become wealthy. And the other thing too is I grew up in this really wealthy county, and at the time I didn't know how just ridiculous it was. I mean, most people don't live like that. And so my family wasn't as wealthy as these other families, and I remember growing up and not having the same things, not getting a brand new BMW when I turned 16 as other people in my high school did, and just feeling that I didn't fit in, which is not the way you want to feel in middle school and in high school. So I realized then, still at a pretty young age, I didn't want to end up like everyone else struggling with money. I didn't want to have to operate on a strict budget or borrow money from family and friends to make it to my next paycheck. I wanted to be different. And I realized that what I did then would either set me up for wealth or for poverty. So I began reading, I began learning everything I could about finance, and started learning about real estate investing, and decided that I eventually wanted to retire early. And I didn't think it would happen so early. But yeah, so that's kind of what happened.
That's pretty interesting way to come about it. And I've can relate to your story of I grew up in a place. It wasn't a super wealthy place, but it was pretty middle class. And our family was middle class. We had a lot of stuff. We never worried about food being on the table or having a roof over our heads. We had a pretty, well cared for middle class lifestyle. But I had friends that had it all. They had the new car, they didn't have to work. And I was in 16, I was the one that always had to go have a part-time job. And I was just like, hey, I'm drawn to bigger things because I felt like I was capable of more. But those things that you are interested in, or maybe comparing yourself to as a young teenager, like you wanted the BMW or you saw people getting BMWs. I don't know if you wanted it, but I think a lot of people associate money with things, but also being able to retire early. And this, it's not really retirement because you're able to do a bunch of stuff, choose the projects you want to work on. But part of that is keeping more than you make and living a lifestyle that you're able to afford what you do by making choices. So obviously buying big fancy cars, you could have done that, but did your mindset change of the things that were important to you as you evolved from your junior high years to where you're at today?
Oh, for sure. Because I think starting out playing the comparison game, it was more about seeing what my friends had or what other people in high school had that I didn't have. And then as I grew older, I realized it was really more about the lifestyle. And achieving financial independence allows you to truly do whatever you want with your life and pursue your dreams. And now I can work when, where, and if I want. And that is so, so much more important than any physical objects that money could buy.
That is having your time back to do the things you want to do and pursue your own happiness, I guess you could say, or your own personal journey is more important than being stuck working for a dead-end job or a job you don't like and you're strapped to it because you don't have the financial independence. So I usually like to ask my guests uh, this question. What is your idea around luck? What do you believe the word luck means to you?
It's funny you asked me that because somebody else asked me that recently, or I had made some comment to somebody about, I've been really, really lucky. And they were like, well, but have you, or have you just worked really hard? And I was like, well, I think it's both. I think I have been lucky because I've worked really, really hard. I was presented with opportunities that I otherwise wouldn't have if I hadn't done certain things. So I think those two things go hand in hand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they do. It's almost like you're lucky to have the Motley Fool book drop into your life at the time it did, right? You know, and that could have happened to, somebody just like you sitting right next to you, looks like you, same age and everything. And you choose to read it and they choose to not read it. And because you've chosen to read it, you've learned something. It inspired you to take a path that would be different than if you hadn't read it. And all of a sudden, because you're aware of different set of circumstances, aware of the opportunities, you're able to act on them, and you're working hard towards them. So it's like there's a little bit of things that come across our lives out of sheer luck or whatever, but there has to be some sort of hard work and awareness to take advantage of those. And so I
Hmm.
think a lot of people probably would say, hey, you must be lucky to be done working by the time you're not even 30 yet. But hey, you put in, you know, 40 years worth of work in a short amount of time that's allowed you to create this lifestyle you want. And you're probably gonna, it always reminds me of taking a 401k class. Like when you start a job, they say you need to invest in your 401k. Of course, it's your first job, you don't make a lot of money. And so you're like, oh, how much can I really invest? But they show you this graph that just says if you invested 10% of your income from the time you're 25 to 35, you'll have more money at 65 than if you invested the same amount from the time you're 35 till the time you're 65. So in 10 years' time, early in your life, you'll have more money than if you invested for 30 years the same amount. So you're investing 3 times as much money, but you still have less money. And so I think that's, a very powerful thing to be so focused at such an early stage in your life to get there, and the potential of where you can go after this. You're truly going to make a big impact in other people's lives. You've already written books, you've created a brand around money lessons. So let's talk a little bit about how do you make money management fun, entertaining, and simple. Like, simple, I get simple, but money management's not fun usually. It's definitely not entertaining.
Yeah, no, it's not. In fact, some people ask why I even wrote Money Honey, my first book, and it's because all my family and friends were coming to me for financial advice, which was great because I love to help people. And I also began to wonder, well, why aren't they learning on their own or reading books or educating themselves? And I had this epiphany that, oh yeah, personal finance is boring. It's overwhelming and complicated and complex. So I thought to myself, well, how can I make this topic fun and sassy and simple? And that's where the idea for the book came from.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few things that I do. It's my target audience is really female millennials and Gen Z, younger generations, people that maybe are just coming out of college and starting to work. And I wanted to speak to them and speak, even my language, which is hashtags and acronyms and funny jokes and funny anecdotes. So I do that throughout the whole book. I make references to TV shows like Friends and other things like that. So it just makes it easy to read. But most of all, in my brand and in my platforms, I just try to be real because I still make mistakes to this day with money. And I just try to poke fun at myself as much as I can. Something I had posted, this was a while ago, but I had somehow almost overdrawn my checking account because I didn't keep track of all these checks I was writing. And so I posted in my group and I was like, hey guys, so I'm a finance guru and former financial advisor, and I almost just overdrew my checking account. And people love that. So I just try to admit my mistakes and show that I am also not perfect, just like anybody else.
Yeah. When you decided to write your book, did you feel that you were qualified to speak on a topic, or, how did you like, a lot of times we talk about imposter syndrome of like, am I smart enough? Have I been around long enough? Do I really know stuff that's of value to people, or, is this worth writing? Like, what was your mindset like going into writing that book, and how did you overcome maybe any limiting beliefs you had around that?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that. When I first started writing the book, it was very exciting. All the words flowed out of me. I felt good. I had been a financial advisor already, so I felt qualified from that aspect. So it was all great at first. And then about 4 months in, I quit writing the book. And it wasn't just, I'm going to take a break. I had no intention of ever picking it back up again. And that's because by that point, I was telling myself things like, who do you think you are, Rachel, to write a book about finance? And your writing is crap. And if you go through with this, it's going to be an embarrassment. And so I had such severe self-doubt by that point that I quit. And luckily, I eventually confessed to a good friend what I was doing. And she was like, Rachel, what are you thinking? You have to keep doing this. You're really onto something. And so I picked it back up. But in the end, the only reason I went through with publishing it is because I told myself, if I can just help one person, that's all I want to do. And that's
Hmm.
how I got myself to go through with it. I just lowered the bar really, really far. But thank goodness I did. And thank goodness I had a friend kind of call me out on that imposter syndrome. And it enabled me to get past that, because Money Honey has been more successful than I ever would have imagined. And I think it has over 550 five-star reviews on Amazon now. So it's truly helped people and changed their lives. And I think that's just something we all have to keep in mind when it comes to imposter syndrome is, well, what's going to happen if you don't share your unique gift with the world, if you don't
Hmm.
help and impact people, because that's the worst scenario.
Well, I think you have a calling, and by you, I mean people in general. Like you have some part of your story that's going to resonate and impact other people's lives. So if you hold on to that story because you don't think it's worth sharing, you're actually being pretty selfish because you're taking away the chance for somebody else to have that information shared with them and maybe make a positive impact in their life. And you know, let's face it, if you're in your teens, high school, college years, you don't relate with, people in your parents' age, right? Like throughout the course of history, like there's always a generation of distrust and like, you just don't get me. We're in a different wavelength growing up. But there's not a lot of people in millennials and Gen Z that have a lot of financial education and have done things successfully. There's a ton of people that have done it in their 50s and 60s, but like that's different. Like times are different, or you had a good job, or you accumulated this knowledge over a course of a significant amount of time. But here you are, um, you're in this group of people that probably need to hear your advice the most, and you're relatable. So to be that person that steps up and accepts her calling, I think that's an amazing feat that you've done, and you're able to make that one person. You've influenced them. You've influenced clearly more than that, and it's allowed you to kind of step into what you're destined to do, which is to help educate people and get them on the right spot. So, has anybody approached you yet for your Susie Orman television show yet?
No, not yet. I'm still holding out. I did get a compliment the other day that someone said I was the female Dave Ramsey. So I was like, okay, I'll take it.
Well, let's talk about that then. What are some of like the biggest mistakes that people that you work with make, or misconceptions they have about personal finance and accumulating wealth?
Yeah, I think, a big mistake people make is misusing credit cards. That's very, very common, and it's unfortunate because credit card companies are so predatory. They play on your emotions. They know that people are inherently wired to go after something they want now. People want instant gratification, and it's hard to have self-discipline. So they prey on that, and I think people tend to have a lot of guilt and shame and embarrassment around credit card debt when they shouldn't. It's just an unfortunate thing that happens to a ton of people. But the best way to use a credit card is to pay it off every single month, use it like a debit card, only put something on a credit card that you actually have money for in the bank at that moment. Pay it off every single month. So that's the best way to use it. Another concept that I think there's some misconceptions around is how to save money quickly. So when I ask this question in workshops, I'll ask people, hey, if you're trying to save money quickly in a short period of time, what kinds of things do you do? And people will always answer, oh, I'll eat out less. I will shop less. I'll cook my food at home. And those answers are all great. I realized after some time that there's a common theme in all those answers. We're all focused on decreasing our expenses. And that is extremely important because you're not going to get anywhere if you're spending more than you're making. So it's a very vital part of working your way towards financial freedom. But there's only so much you can do to decrease your expenses, right? You can't stop buying food. You can't negotiate your mortgage or your rent. So it's a little bit limited. There's actually two ways you can save more money. And the number one way is decreasing your expenses, but the number two way is to increase your income. And for some reason, we just don't automatically go there. We kind of forget that as an option. But the great thing about increasing your income is that there's no cap on how much money you can make in a year. There's nothing stopping you from going out and making more money. So if someone really wants to make an impact with their budget or with being able to save money aggressively, they really need to focus on doing both, decreasing their expenses and increasing their income.
I love that answer because, a lot of times we're told that, like, hey, to save money, you quit getting your $3, Starbucks every day. And you're like, okay, you can deny yourself, happiness that you derive from it, or you could look at the ways like, how could you make an extra $3 per day? And so you go, what would be easier to do? Like, to me, it seems like if you put your mind to it, you could come up with ideas, lots of ideas that could generate an additional $3 per day. And if you can generate $3 per day, could you generate $30 per day, or 60 or 300? And so you're right, you're unlimited at the top end, and you're setting a foundation for passive income. I know, like, that was a key aspect of you being able to retire early is passive income. It's not like you decided, like, hey, I figured out a way to save my income to zero or my expenses to zero. Like, that's a limited. So whatever you make, like if you make $1,000 a week, like the most you could ever reduce your expenses to is $1,000. But you can't do that. Like you said, you have some sort of, so can you reduce it down to 100 or 200, and maybe that's possible, but how much do you have to cut out to be unhappy? But if you can flip it around and think about, how could I grow my income $100 or $200, now I could build on that, because I could take that extra income and put it into more things and snowball it and then start paying some stuff. So love that answer. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, and they get stuck in their mind of trying to save instead of thinking of ideas to increase their revenue.
Yeah, and you make a good point too, Nate, that when you focus just on decreasing your expenses, really you're going to have to reduce your quality of life. There's no other way around it. You're going to have to make those sacrifices, and ultimately that reduces your quality of life because you don't get to buy the things that you want to buy. When you focus on increasing your income, then you're really operating from an abundance mindset. And how can I make so much money that I can spend as much money as I want, where, and decreasing expenses maybe isn't even that important anymore. So that's why, it'll be different for different people, but if you can just focus on both, that's where you're going to really make progress.
Okay. So you use the word abundance, and to me that word strikes an image in my head of law of attraction and positive thinking, and this idea of creating abundance in your mind and attracting it into your life. But finance people also tend to be very pragmatic and very numbers driven. Where do you fall in the spectrum of, hey, it's numbers, it's just simple math, it's all, there's no emotion to it? Or is there a mental mindset to it, and the ability to attract things into our lives through intention and visualization?
Yes, it's funny you asked that, Nate, because I have always been the most practical and pragmatic person, and I still am overwhelmingly very pragmatic. But I was introduced to a book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. Have you heard of it?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, so in the book, he talks about, starting your morning with sort of having this positive intention, going into your day with intentionality and doing all these different things, meditation and journaling and affirmations. And at first, I feel like I kind of wrote off this book and I was like, whatever. But then I started taking it more seriously at a time in my life when I was starting to really suffer from anxiety. So I started doing some of these affirmations and realizing that they really work. And affirmations are things that you state out loud that you are kind of willing to become true. But from a money perspective, I hadn't thought about this until just in the past few months, but you can use affirmations to totally change your money mindset as well. Because when you think about the way you're raised or the way you grow up, a lot of us grow up with these inherited limiting beliefs around money. Things like, oh, I'm never going to have enough money, or man, money, there's like never enough money. Money is scarce. It's hard to make more money. Maybe you are just upset with money. So we kind of grow up with those, and that's really setting yourself up for this scarcity mindset. And if you can change your mindset into one of abundance and be telling yourself things like, there is always more than enough money, and I love money, and I'm grateful for money, and money comes easily and effortlessly to me. If you can tell yourself things and change your mindset, I absolutely believe that what goes on mentally can manifest itself in reality. I 100% believe that. I know that sounds very woo-woo to some people. It sounds like it to me even, but I 100% believe it.
Well, I love that you've embraced it a little bit, and there's some truth in it. So like I can't wish something to happen. Like I can't law of attract, like I want an ice cream cone to appear magically and I have an ice cream cone, right? But for me, the visualization is it's what I know to be possible, can I attract it into my life? And so if I know it's possible, I can do it. So if I want this ice cream cone, it's not going to magically appear, right? But I know how to get it, right? I could go down to the store and I could get it, and I have $3. I could go buy an ice cream cone. But you might say, "Well, I don't even have $3. I have $0." And you start thinking, "Well, what are some things that I could do to get $3 into my name to go buy this ice cream cone?" And because you think it's possible, it becomes possible. Like I could go dig through my coin jar. I could go like into my car and look between the car seat cushions or underneath some stuff. And like, could you like, there's ways you start thinking of ways that like it's possible to get $3 to do this. And I think when you talk about limiting beliefs around money, as a lot of people they can't envision how they can grow to handle large sums of money. So like let's say if you come to from a life of like, hey, I got a job for $30,000 a year. I could visualize myself making 60,000. That to me is doable. Like I could envision my life going through a place, I could take some steps, get some raises, get it done, I could make $60,000. But the idea to go from 30,000 to 3 million, that's a lot. That's a big jump, and it doesn't feel possible, right? And so because you don't have that mindset that it is possible, then it becomes impossible, and it's impossible you'll never get it done. But changing that belief that like, hey, somebody else has done this, how could I do it too? And so if you start believing things are possible, then you start becoming aware of the circumstances that allow you to get to that spot. So you go, oh, well, here's a book, and this book tells me some stuff, and because I've read this book, now I start seeing opportunities that I could reduce my income or reduce my expenses, increase my income, repurpose some of my expenses, let it build, turn it into this. And you go, hey, there is a path to turn 30,000 into 3 million. Now, how big could I make that go? So I do think that there's a pragmatic approach to visualization, but it's also changing your beliefs of what is possible by thinking about it in smaller details and taking the steps and actions to make things happen.
Yeah, I totally agree. And great clarification on that. It's really, when it boils down to it, in my opinion, it's about going from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. That's all it is.
Yes, yes. So I like to ask my guests that come on this question, which is, what does it mean to you to be all in around an idea or an outcome?
So to me, being all in is a mental decision you make. And an example I was thinking of earlier is when I had graduated from high school. I had already learned a little bit about, finance, and I had this enormous fear of going into student debt. I didn't want to take out loans. I didn't want to be riddled with student loans for the next 3 decades of my life. So I was really panicked because I didn't know how I was going to pay for college. And I was working at American Eagle at the time, making maybe $200 per week. So I was like, okay, that's not going to cut it. I ended up selling Cutco knives. Have you heard of Cutco
Yep.
cutlery? Okay. So I
You
ended
might
up,
be the first person I ever heard of that made money on it.
no way. Yeah, I sold a ton of knives. I paid my way through school, but it really boiled down to me having this moment where I was presented with this opportunity of selling knives. And it was the first time I'd been exposed to something where the harder you work, the more money you make. And I knew I could outwork anybody. So there was definitely some moment where I decided after this interview, okay, I'm going to go all in. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to make this work, and nothing is going to get in my way. And a lot of that for me at the time was driven by fear because, I had these limiting beliefs. I didn't think I was going to have enough money. I've always had this fear of not having enough money to take care of myself or my loved ones. And so that fear, fear can be a very powerful motivator. And it was for me at that time. And that's what led me to go all in on that goal.
Do you still have that fear?
I I think I probably do, maybe just subconsciously, but I've come a long way with it. Where at some point in my life, I just always wanted to make more money and it was never going to be enough money. And now using, affirmations and meditations, I've really been able to change my mindset to, I have more than enough already. And I don't need to have any more money than I have. So it's a work in progress.
I want to ask you a controversial question.
Okay.
Should you or should you not go to college if you're, just graduated high school? What is your take on it right now?
I love this question. There's no like hard answer for everybody because everyone's different, but college is not what it used to be. I mean, it used to be, yeah, you go get a degree, you're going to get a good paying job. That's just not true anymore. And a lot of times it can be a very, very poor investment. So I think there's things you can do to try to calculate, your return on investment, but even that is difficult. And I think these days people absolutely need to consider other options, trade or vocational school, or going to a community college for the first 2 years and transferring your credits so that you can then get a degree from a different school. Or if my husband was in the military, so he used his military benefits to pay his way through school. So I certainly think there's other options that need to be considered just as much as a traditional 4-year degree.
Hmm. And I think you're right. There's knowledge is so easy to access now. Like, back in the day when college was the gateway to getting a corporate job, like you had limited resources to get information. Now you got Google. Basically anything you want to figure out, you can find online. And to go pay a lot of money to go to college, to get pay 50, $60,000 to go get a job, maybe for 25,000, 30,000, which is crazy that that's still like the entry wages. Because when I graduated college in 1999, that was like the entry wages then too. So there hasn't been a lot of growth in entry level jobs that require college degrees. You can put that same like, what would it look like if you put 4 years of effort? You're already going to be living on ramen noodles in your parents' basement or like in five roommates in some crappy dorm room, So like, if you're already willing to have a lifestyle of like that, what if you put that time and effort into creating knowledge of a skill that you could turn into, like either writing books or coaching or creating digital content and stuff like this that could turn in and allow you to make twice that much money in that same period of time without the college debt that's burned on top of it. And then if you did that long enough, you're going to develop these skills that you're already interested in. And you're going to say, well, we need somebody with 5 years experience to do this job. Well, college degree guy doesn't have 5 years of experience, but you do, because you'd spent 5 years learning the master of the trade. So I think you're right. There's something to be said. College isn't what it quite used to be. Now, if you want to go professional, like doctor, lawyer, very skilled, very narrow, you're going to have to go. You can't go learn doctor school online and expect to get hired. But a lot of the stuff people want to go into, business, marketing, sales, those are skills that could be learned on the job for yourself very quickly.
Yeah, 100% agree. Real world skills are so much valuable than the theoretical knowledge you're going to learn in college. So, I mean, you even have to start by asking yourself, well, do I need to get a higher education in the first place at all? And just to give you some perspective, I have a financial economics degree that cost me I guess 120 grand, not out of pocket because a lot of that was scholarships, but that was the cost of the degree. And all my professors were telling me that I was going to be making 60 grand out of school. So that was my expectation. And my first job out of college, I was making $32,000. And then my
Hmm.
second job, I was making $42,000. So it's just a lot harder in reality. And I think that you also have to consider the opportunity cost, like you said, because it's not just the money, it's 4 years of your time. And what else could
Hmm.
you be doing with that? That's a really important question to ask.
Yeah, you can do a lot in 4 years if you put your mind to it. Even just learning and getting a hard school of hard knocks lessons for 3.5 years, like that last 6 months, you're gonna just take those lessons and apply them and have some massive growth. So what is next for Rachel Richards? Where are you gonna, do? Where are you gonna go 10 years, 40 years out? What are your big ideas?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot, and I still don't have a great answer because I had worked so hard for 2 or 3 years of my life to get to where I am now. And now I'm just working on enjoying this moment and using this time to rest and recharge and relax and remind myself that I don't have to monetize everything and it's okay to have hobbies that I have just for fun. So my husband and I just moved to Colorado, so we're spending the year hiking and taking some time off, which is really fun. But a lot of people say, because I still work on my book business, my passion is still helping female millennials with financial literacy and empowering them to take control of their financial future. So some people are like, well, Rachel, you're not retired, you're still working. The thing is, I use the terms retirement and financially independent interchangeably. So for me, retirement isn't about not working or sitting on a beach, which some people do, and that's fine. I just get bored easily. It's now about working when, where, and if I want. So I get to spend my time doing what I'm the most passionate about and enjoying that. And I don't know where I'll even be a year from now. Maybe traveling. That's what we've talked about, is taking an RV for a year and traveling around the country. So
Well, having freedom and flexibility to choose what you want to do is amazing stuff. So you talked a little bit about who your ideal audience is, but can you describe that person in maybe very specific details? So if they're listening, um, and they know, hey, that's me, I should be checking you out.
yeah, I would say my ideal, very specific person would be a female in their 20s, that's maybe starting, just kind of getting out in the real world, just graduated from college, starting a job, and realizing, hey, I don't think I have quite the handle on finances that I think I should have. Because we're in a financial education crisis, and we're not taught about money at any point in our lives. So there's often this moment of realization as a young adult, thinking, oh my gosh, what the heck do I do? So those are the people that I help.
Awesome stuff. So where can they go to find you if they want to get connected and see what you're up to?
Yeah, so both of my books, Money Honey and Passive Income Aggressive Retirement, are on Amazon and Audible. So they're ebook, paperback, and audiobook. And I will give your listeners my Passive Income Starter Kit for free. So if anyone wants to download that, they can go to moneyhoneyrachel.com/bonus.
Awesome stuff. So definitely reach out if you're listening, reach out to Rachel, say hello. All those links will be listed in the show notes. And if you have a conversation with her, tell her where you heard about her, and hopefully you too, in a short amount of time, can turn your financial problems into dreams and choose the projects you want to work on. So awesome. Thank you so much for having this conversation, Rachel. I really enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on, Nate.
Thank you.